And it's at this point that I think it's wise to make a disclaimer and say just because I have some ideas does not mean they will be transferred into reality or in a good way or in an intended way. When I say something and you get agitated to such a point that you think you're going to faint, that you're just overwhelmed, it's possible you're looking at it through the lens of delusion. You're not looking at it in the way it was intended. This is a human phenomenon. And if that's so, if you're on the other side of the stadium, take off your uniform and pick up a new one. You can come over to the winning side, especially if the other team does not appreciate good things. They want to do it their way. They have ugly uniforms. The whole culture surrounding them is toxic. They don't do things the right way. Their bus is stinky. There's no investment. That's your team? What? Why is that? Were you destined to stay on that team? Or do those clothes have locks on them? Or is it just a lack of right effort on your part? Is it a lack of dignity? Is it a lack of faith? Because that's what does keep people back from doing right things. That is what differentiates people. That's why I'm on the extreme right of the bell curve. I'm always trying to get so much further. But of course not right in a political sense. That's a false framing. I have nothing to do with the right, especially the right of today or the right of the past. What has that brought the world? Well, how about something new? You can call it a Lamborghini, but it's a different Lamborghini. It's the new Lamborghini. It's comfortable and fast. Might have a couple of other perks to it as well. Like it runs on solar energy or something like that. Or it hovers over the pavement, doesn't need tires. It doesn't weigh anything, it's very light, for example, and yet it's very strong. So if there was an accident, both passengers would be very well protected, more so than they are today, so that they could possibly survive crashes that are 1,000 times worse without a scratch type of design. So this is another thing for audiences that are obsessed or are agitated. Just imagine it's the wrong kind of agitation. It's not something you're against, it's something you're for. But you have some reason for not making the right decision. And so it's your own fault if you're agitated. It's not you're projecting that agitation on what is agitating you, but that is unjust. Just like you could run straight up in my face and start screaming, I don't have to get agitated, although that's the natural and normal thing to do. If the skills are there and the intention is there, and why shouldn't it be there? All that agitation is on your side. It's yours, not mine. And that's why if there was a vote right now, I would win a free and fair election. And if I wouldn't win, then something's wrong with your system. What does he know? What did Lamborghini know about cars, right? We got our ladas, so shut up. We do things the best way we can, and they're good enough. Don't listen to that man. Okay. So everybody in the crowd is now involved. You've heard the hecklers. I've just repeated to you more concisely his own argument to you. Well, how about this foreigner that has all the style? When he says, because he sometimes gets obsessed with mathematics. Recently, Pareto principle, 80-20 came up again. We got a 20% dark fleet right now with a lot of dangerous fluids that also happens to be very valuable. And they're being transported by ships that are over 30 years old and a danger to significantly important environments that would be devastated if they started sinking, even at a rate of 1 to 2%, just out of sheer decrepitude. Add on top of that, these things are not insured. So who pays and cleans up the mess? Well, the countries that will get affected by it, and because they're a bunch of dodo birds, most likely, or have other humanitarian, not so humanitarian people not managing things very effectively, as is the norm in badly governed countries. It's going to be another ecocide. It's going to be another disaster, an environmental disaster. So all the dead fish, all the dead sea life, just pile it up in your mind and put it on that faction in the back that just called me the problem. Because this is preventable. If relationships can be normalized, but they can only be normalized if certain principles are upheld. And I clearly state the principles that are doable. I don't want to hear factionalism, partisanism. If we get this, then we'll go back to this. No. Makes the proposal one that is just, that will work. If people will abide by its rulings, which is always a question of knuckleheads. But are these knuckleheads worth it? Are they worth that kind of money or that kind of destruction just in terms of the dark fleet? 20% of ships are dark or gray and decrepit and dangerous. If one fish, if that report that I just delivered to you, all of the knuckleheads, one fish, if that saves one fish's life, that doesn't have to choke on valuable petroleum, that would be enough. It is enough. That shouldn't interest us. Who cares about petroleum? Well, you drive cars, don't you? It's energy. Energy fuels societies. You don't manage that properly, your societies are not properly managed, and yet people make way too much money with that stuff and they don't distribute it. And it ends up then causing, on top of that, environmental disasters. Those types of things are priceless. You can't come with your dirty money later and make it all good. You could possibly fund some of the cleanup, but that's not going to make it right. Have you ever been to beaches like that? I've been to great beaches, and some of them had serious environmental damage done to them by irresponsible people. I've been in moonscapes that were once a paradise, Your grubby money is not worth it. And I would like stupid people to at least be superstitious enough to think that you let one of those things happen due to negligence, due to bad politics, due to bad relationships. The negative causality of that is close to an atomic bomb as far as what that amounts to. If you're superstitious, this might save your life right now because you don't have the smarts if you think you're just looking at the money. You know who hates smart people? That's dumb people, even if they think they're smart. I love it when a smart person tells me something smart that I didn't know. I love that. Some of the things that I've heard, of course I haven't come up with all of this myself. It's because I am a connoisseur, a seeker of wisdom, a preserver of it, a refiner of it, a producer of it in some places. But what I don't like is a lot of dumbness. And so that is divisory on a certain level, and it just has to be. The wise and the foolish do not really mingle. And yet this life throws us together by mistake. And yet smart people can rub off on dumb people. Dumb people that listen to a smart person, they're not dumb. They get smart real quick. They level up to the smartness that is imparted to them. They make the right decision even though it doesn't look like the right decision. It looks like the wrong decision to people that are seeing things wrong. You see how that works? Delusion makes people dumb. Oh, this is the love of my life. I'm 21 years old. This is it. It's all over. She said she loves me, now she hates me. Take out the gasoline can and start, pouring it out. And where are my cigars? And this cigar doesn't work. And where's the barbecue starter? This is how delusion, it is what moves the world sometimes, but not in a right way. Versus 20 years later and thinking back to yourself, thinking that way, and being completely flabbergasted that one could be so deluded. Here's the other thing, man. I gotta tell guys something. If you fall head over heels for some of these ladies, and some of them are quite mesmerizing, which is why monks don't look in their direction, because right, this is why who was it, the Homerian Odyssey were written in the first place. Odysseus, he was strapped. He did not trust himself to hold on to the mast. He had others bind him strongly, like double binding, with the instructions not to release him should he beg them to beforehand. That's what you call preparation if you're going to go into one of those things. And he knew why. You know why? Because he prized his better life more than the illusion of desire. But coming back to these dummies, these women, I also think of them, these smooth operating women at 19, they don't want any of these busters and dusters and just completely overcommitted tryhards. It's really sad in a way, and it's quite disturbing, and yet it is a factor. So that's why there should be separate companies of certain people. You should not just get into any relationship just because you think you want one. These relationships, they end tragically too. We hear about the comical stories like the one I just described. Not that any of that was true, of course, because even in my stupidest days, I wasn't that stupid. But there are people out there that are subnormally stupid, especially when that is concerned. They might be physicists, but on that issue, they're dumber than dumb. Now, I call on every one of them to forgive themselves and to be compassionate with themselves. Like, look, when you're in a state of delusion, it is what it is. It's not something anyone wants, but you can work through it, and you should do so skillfully. Cut as much of that meat off the bone as you can, however dull your meat cleaver is. You sharpen it in between whacks. Some of these super simps, man, they're just, their elbows are like glued to their bodies, and they're trying to whack like little bits off of their not caring bone. But that's okay. If you've got to do that for a while, then do it. At least you're moving forward and getting delusion behind you. And these vixens, they don't deserve it. In fact, they're not usually vixens anyway. They just might appear to be for a time. It's all misguided in a way. But again, I focus on the subnormalcy of these extremely misfortunate and misguided relationships that a lot of people have. But on the other hand, there's good, noble people that have supernormal relationships, and they miss all of that jazz from day one, and they are blessed. This is also causality. The Buddha had to come up with previous lives to be that blessed, to not even have to experience bad relationships in their entire lives. That's just a wonderful experience. A wonderful experience to think about. It's not only possible, but it does happen to enough people to keep our civilization alive, even if it's by pure chance. Whereas the people trying to have the perfect relationship always end up messing it up because they want more than it could ever offer. And yet that's perceptional. That's you want this, it's giving you this, and that's why it's no good for you. You can give up both, right? The person doesn't have to be the person you want, and they weren't the person you want, and so that sort of takes care of itself, doesn't it? And the feeling is mutual. Like, I thought I wanted you, I don't want you. Okay? It's like being able to return something to a store. I thought this calculator had this function on it. It didn't. The button was stuck. Great calculator otherwise, but I wanted to do this type of function. I wanted to do the cosine. I moved on to cosine, not just arithmetic. Doesn't have it, return it, get my money back, and I have to maybe put a little bit more into it, be a little bit more discretionary, look into the reviews. Not that my new calculator should have any reviews, mind you, but look to the reviews of other good calculators, and then maybe decide on one of those or not. Maybe it's a little too expensive for your budget. Which it most likely is. Even if you think you can buy it on terms, don't necessarily overinvest. I mean, this is another thing. Now that society's been thrown for a loop, put on its head, women that should have some damn money or be moneyed. If they want to have any type of supernormal relationship, because the guys are broke. And the ones that have money are not ones that are any good, not in bad systems. So don't think that primitively, because you'll get primitive results. AKA the materialist way. I'm rich, and I'm ghetto rich. Look at me. I fell for the money game. But on the other hand, women that have money and then allow for talented men not to be ground up in the dust, that's more of a wise strategy. That should be more culturally accepted if we're living in the deranged times that we are, where the wealth has shifted from the producer class to the pointer class. But that doesn't mean that they need to continue being a pointing class. Once that sort of wealth transfer takes place, they can then resume a supporting role, which is fine. There's no army in the world that will win without logistics. So logistics, people might say, oh yeah, you know what, logistics, F logistics, that doesn't do nothing. There's nothing that goes bang in the logistics if you're doing it right. There's no fires, there's no breakdowns, everything's running smooth. That's boring. No, well, the army that has the smooth running logistics is going to be doing a lot more than the army that doesn't. Army where it's like the food truck catches on fire and people are rolling around accusing each other of going behind each other's back, and that. Those guys in the trenches, they're going to be waiting a while for those grilled cheeses. And if they do show up, they might taste funny. That might be the last cheeseburger they ever ate. Oh no, the last grilled cheese they ever ate. They're going taking a dirt nap real soon. Thanks to their not so important logistics. Wasn't enough clown town. So that also is perception. They said that was a bad thing. That's really important. That's super important. It's more important than people think. And yet these sustainable relationships, again, does not mean butted up against each other. If you can build a different building, then live there, live close. But don't necessarily be so close that it becomes annoying, because it will for understandable reasons, and that's okay. It's also okay to live close, but not too close type thing. But yeah, I'm getting off into the bushes with this one. But this is another thing. Politicians should be able to establish a human connection with their audience. And it shouldn't just be all business. Like, you have to be able to trust the intentions of the person who's making the proposals. Like, this guy, he wants to do it right. If he messes up, it's most likely an accident, or it's something that we can work with to make it better the next time. His heart is in the right place type person, versus someone who's coming out with doctrinaire, robotic statements. They have these like big glassy eyes and, again, weird haircuts and suits. The temperature has dropped 0.0%. We need to get back to methane. The cow's producing methane. Here's the other thing. They have these sensationalist CO2 production numbers from Brazil, where they clear-cut forests to make space for their beef industry. But in places like England, where they have rolling hills where grass grows no matter what you do, and all the dang cattle just eats grass pretty much and turns into beef, they produce like 5 kilos of CO2 or methane per year, not like the 250 kilos that these misinformed environmental groups sensationalize for political reasons. So all the data they produce that they try to weave into their con, and the climate is just one big ball of wax like that. Just realize real experts don't back up their squawkings. Imagine that it has a negligible impact on the environment, but these people are screaming Chicken Little. How's that going to help things when there's no beef anymore because it's been regulated based on falsified data? Oh, no. Having people like that in politics, that's really not all that dangerous. Certainly the lobby that's pushing all that crap, they have a right to exist and participate in democracies to the exclusion of people that will deliver the facts. So just think how deranged your values must be if that's the way you think. It's not smart to let bad people do bad things. With bad numbers, by the way. So bad numbers people, then we come back to the accounting and bookkeeping side of things. That Westerners, of course this accounting company wouldn't lie. Oh, really? You believe that? Maybe your numbers people are cooked and that's why your decision making is cooked. Or maybe it's a combination. Maybe it's also your proxies are cooked too. And for all you experimental filmmakers out there that shouldn't be too experimental, you should look at the film Napoleon that was produced in the 20s in France, 1920s. Don't accept any imitation of that, because I told you cultural appropriation is how these people operate. They like to find things that were cool, distort them, and then when people go looking for them, they find their crap instead. Oh, it's newer, let me take a look. Completely sabotaged. But yeah, for the filmmakers, check that out, and check out Kubrick and his theories, and bring a lot of photography into the film. But just imagine like a scientist like the one I am. You have people in uniform, but they're not in uniform, trying to stop that man from telling the truth. And like all the comical scenes. Make it sort of like a funny French detective film from the 70s, like the Pink Panther. but more subtle. I mean, that was a little bit too crude. But to have at least that sort of a buoyant level of comedy throughout the film, despite the horrifying implications of having people like that have access, say so, and a determinate voice in political decision making, was never set up for people like that. Put them in a poor disguise. So people can be in on the joke, not like today where they're completely floored when these people turn out to be duplicitous. But they lie to their graves, so they can't really ever get closure type of operators. Make it funny, really, for me. Make it long, too. How many hours was Napoleon? It was like, it's a 4-hour film or something like that. It's been edited multiple times, so there's differences. Take a look at them all. Use that as a foundational piece of cinema. A guy wrote in recently and said, look, I'm a criminal. Talk to me a little bit more about redemption, because I got a lot on my plate. And I told him, I said, look, This is the realm of tribulation. Before you're dead, you can redeem yourself. It's true. It's not a joke. It's not somebody throwing holy water on you. It's an interior change that you resolve not to be a criminal. You've resolved to do the supernormal thing that isn't all that complicated. It's really abstaining from bad thoughts, bad words, bad deeds. That's it. Keep it simple. You reach that level of discipline, you are fundamentally changed. You're habitually changed. You're different. And see, self is what's keeping you from starting that process. We have a society that wants big selves. It railroads us into selves. You're this, you're not that. You're this color, you're not. You're wearing these colors. Now, certain things you can't get beyond, right? The causality of what, who, or what you are. That does have consequences. But you can make things worse or make things better. You could barge into some place you don't belong and start roughing people up, or you could refrain from doing that. Here, take your hand right now, your left hand, raise it up so it's flat. Now make a fist. Now make it flat again. Now bring it down to your side. Now why did you do it when I told you to do it, but you can't do things for yourself, such as good words, good thoughts, good deeds? That's it. Just put all your bad days behind you, all your bad memories too, all of your broken ribs, all of your crushed skulls, all of your missing fingers. Put it behind you. That's just what was on this journey that didn't make it. But you fundamentally reform yourself. You are a different person, but you're not a person. You're no self. You've gotten rid of what was keeping you wrong. You're not that person. That's redemption. Redemption is real. And that has a tremendous amount of positive causality to it. Because I've heard of people that had a lot on their plate, but because they fundamentally changed, they put in a certain type of causality that changed their trajectory forever. They're not going to hell, man. They're not. And they're not in hell, which is even more important. For the rest of your life, you're not in hell. You got out of jail free, even if you're in jail. So do it, and it's not something you can snap your fingers with. You can't have somebody else do it for you. You have to look at what you're thinking about, how you're thinking, how you're looking at things, and simplify it. Is it bad? Drop it. Is it good? Think about it. If it's nothing, that's great. Nothing is great. It's also what this criminal wrote to me. He said, you might be right about nothing, because I don't think I'm ever going to get to satisfaction. And I said, look, that's great. Nothing is great. I love nothing. I love nothing at the beach. I love nothing in the forest. I love nothing in the ocean. I love nothing in space. Think of yourself in funny ways, like you're a trapeze artist that fell off the tightrope and you're plummeting to your death. And you would plummet to your death if only the laws of physics were in play, but you snap your fingers and you levitate before you hit the ground, and then the ground disappears and you're no longer a trapezist either. You could be something else or nothing at all. And that's preferable to doing dumb things that get dumb results. It's as simple as that. So we have these flexibilities in metaphysics. And even if you're in a cell, you can make them your gymnasium. And you can come out fit, trim, and without any bad memories. You see another tightrope, you don't gotta climb up there and get back on. You don't have to try to do the last move that you didn't pull off. You can just leave it alone or walk on by. I love walking right past the circus real slow. I do a slow walk because I like to cherish the directionality. I also like to feel the non-attachment to the circus. I like looking straight ahead, like not even hearing it sometimes. But then maybe I'll look, just take a little look what I'm missing. Slow walk on by. There's no desire at all to get involved in it. And that's freedom, my friends. That's freedom, and that's also evolution. And because it's a metaphysical evolution, just think, where are you heading now? Even if you were to die in the next 2 minutes. Gurus will stand up. I know this. This is the diamond lightning bolt technique. He just somersaulted through the air like a dragon and completely changed the dynamic. How is this possible? This is old school, old new school. He said, you're referring to Louis the 14th, the Sun King. He was the one that said, I am France. That's what he's famous for saying. And I thought to myself, well, okay, yeah, just imagine when that came out during his time and people started talking about it. And then the people who remembered he said that and started to make comparisons with the trajectory of the country and then all of these different things, just realized that under different leadership, and we might have bad leadership right now, the good thing about politics is it can get changed out. It's not easy. People don't want to go, but people are holding on by their sheer grip, but they're holding on to their seats. Some people think that they're going to keep holding on to it, and they're wrong. Events will prove them wrong, no matter what they think or thought at the time. So we have to realize a lot of politicians that make bad decisions, they're taking big risks. Big risks. Me personally, I like being retired. It's not my job, right? It's not my business. I mean, it sort of is as a citizen of the Western world, and also not so Western world. I think it's great. It's really wonderful that you have distinct cultures in the East that are very venerable, such as Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, Burma, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand. I think, look, each one of those is very individual and very great in its own way. I think it's wonderful that people can have great relationships that aren't adversarial. I think that's a great time to be alive. It's a great opportunity not to abuse the opportunity to learn from high cultures that aren't Western. It's not. I think that's a danger as well. You think, well, everything Western is better. Well, not always, but that doesn't mean you have to change yourself so fundamentally that you no longer exist, which is the accelerationist policy that their operatives take. So just think of them as a social theater group that are coached to take the wrong positions on a lot of issues and to be really emotionalized about that. That's how you should think of the Blob as well. They take directives, so they're a fake movement. They're social astroturf. They're also not definitive, they're alien. So it's like you had this great beach house, and because of some bad weather and other, maybe you had a malicious neighbor come in the night and spray something with nitrogen, because it's not like a friendly neighbor kind of neighbor, it's one of those annoying neighbors kind of neighbors that some people are unfortunate to have for reasons of bad causality, such as the Mongols running through places. So you have people like that in the vicinity, and then they spray the house, and then this like black fungus starts growing on your beach house. Well, that you can either collapse. You might want to forget about that beach house and build another one, and then maybe watch that they don't do that again, or do something else. But they don't need to be definitive. They're not definitive of the culture. They're adversarial to it. People say it, yeah, they hate the concept of your country, and yet want to present themselves as immovable and determinate and dominant in the social hierarchy. That's a really big contradiction, isn't it? But only if there's a people that exist that can recognize itself in the values of its leaders that are not put up for vote. Can't have a restorative scientist come in to repair the defacements and vandalisms when the vandals are in control of the premises, or at least enough of it to cause permanent and continuous vandalism on a daily basis, because that's what it amounts to. And the damage is real. You had a great museum, just an exceptional world-class collection. New people come in, 1 year later they sold off all the stuff on eBay, and somebody took like a bunch of, looks like they let the gorillas through, and there's excrement everywhere, and the door's locked, and there's a chain on it, and there's no story about that because they're, focusing on butts today. They got important cultural values to keep people in connection with, as opposed to the significant and weighty and tragic in ways mistreatment of the authentic culture and legacy and inheritance of a place. And then on top of that, to present themselves as special, especially important and validated, valuable, essential people in a robust civic political infrastructure. Just imagine these people have thought themselves into that social delusion of themselves. You just need to believe it too, because that's what the opinion makers think. Ooh, who are these opinion makers again? Think of them like interior designers. They got like tacky stuff that's cheap, falls apart, smells funny, and it's broken, like only works half the time. The rug is dirty with strange stains on it, and the floor creaks, and the walls are crooked, and there's mold growing. You turn on the hot water, and cold water comes out, and you turn on cold water, and hot water comes out, but then it goes out again, like after a minute. The water's not safe to drink. You can become deathly ill for days on end by drinking it, but there's no sign that says don't drink it because somebody ripped that off. Oh, bed bugs are about, and horse flies. Like maybe, not less than 10 horse flies, like really energized ones that came straight off the manure pile type horse flies. But you can't shoo them out because they got the rules set that's okay. Type of people like interior designers that claim to be interior designers, and yet that's what their interior designs amount to. Oh, you got a place on the wall where people have been swatting these horseflies. So it's like, like a purple stain. It also has stuff growing on top of that. There's a big puddle of fresh vomit just sitting in the middle of the room. That smell just pervades, but they don't pretend to care about those things because they're having very accomplished conversations with themselves about inverted topics like style and taste and values and accomplishments. Oh, and personages. They're very important, interesting personages. They're not accomplished. They're just sort of dramatic in a grotesque way. So then you got that room. That's sort of 2023. But then you've got like this other room that's completely different. It's like just everything looks like it's a diamond. Just one big diamond. You've got perfect geometry. It's light. It's multifaceted. It has different uses. It has excellent tensile strength, shearing. It has everything is spec'd for the purpose. And it looks magical. It is magical. It's clean, it's pure, it's free, it's strong, it's real. And there's also some comfortable things in it. It's not just that harsh style all the time. There's comfortable places, natural places, away from the humdrum places, sheltered spaces, perhaps even towers, and vistas that just go on and on and on and on and on, and olive trees, and stone walls and things like that, little goats. So instead of the humdrum, right, the worldly, the disappointing, the deceived, the downright hateful, you best believe some of these geckos, they do hate you. On a visceral level, they do. It demolishes any idea they ever had that anything about them is worth a damn. They hate that. Egotistical people that are all about self, they do hate that. Demolishes them. And that's all they got. I do like returning to Shakespeare, though, as well. Shakespeare has so much versatility. He brought so much comedy, so much insight into life, and he did it in such an amazingly elegant way. Just inspiring. And if you think you've grasped everything he threw at you, you didn't, even if you think you understood what he was trying to say. He meant to say so many things, and he did. There's so much there to life. All of these poor players, this is the thing about politics, you don't take them seriously. Look at them as a theater company. If they play the role poorly, boo them. Don't put up with it. They're not serious. They're shitty actors. Wait, cut that. Don't put shitty. They're bad actors. That's it. Bad actors. Expand your concept of bad. Put it in a gray zone. It's not just that they don't deliver their lines. They have bad lines to begin with, and are basically the buffoons of somebody else's game. A buffoon of the decline game. And they have buffoonish antics like, oh, it's our responsibility that we take care of the people who are wrecking us. You can see behind him, like he's got some affluent-looking house behind him. Probably a tenured professor who's been telling this to his stooges since the 70s or something. Yeah, this is our responsibility. We need to do whatever these people say to feel good about ourselves. Imagine him rolling into like a Shakespearean play. This is the type of fool that today is explaining some type of manipulative con to a people that are being attacked in every way known to man. That it's their responsibility to take it. Like an old dude, like he's got a white beard. One of these evil actors. Just faking it. Sort of like a robot. Doo-doo. But apparently these people have like large audiences. They're mesmeric figures. People think they know what they're talking about. Because he's been in a college, he has a reputation for something. Maybe he's written a couple books on sociology or psychology. He's published, he's tenured, he's paid, he's got his students that had to write papers for him to approve of. And he's saying it's everyone's responsibility that we just disappear off this place on the planet, that we facilitate demise. You think you've seen a rogue until you've seen one of those. Then you see it. Wow, how low can you go? There's a lot of low people. A lot lower than you think. If you're a noble person, so you don't know how low people go, but they go lower than you think. And that's one of them. Someone who's using moral arguments in a cynical way. But why can't we just pull the curtain back on those people? It's just like people dressing up like a pope. You know, the Medicis weren't all that holy themselves, although some of them did more good than others. But that was a political role, and they were playing God with themselves, some of them better than others. So, but just because a franchise goes bad doesn't mean it can't come back unless there's some forces aligned against it, at which point it ceases to be the thing it once was and is now whatever racket it is. It can't change. I can't go back in a time machine. I'm down. Every day I think about it. I've got regrets, I've got disappointments, I'm damned. I told him, stop right there. No, you're not. You just think you are. The best story is when you're falling at Mach 3 into a nosedive, and you're falling like that for a time. But then somebody, just imagine it's me, talking in your headphones. Hello, wake up, you fell asleep, you're in a nosedive. Pull up, damn you, pull up. And you come to your senses and you just start wrestling with the stick, and it's like a wrestling match with the devil himself. That's right. That's who you're wrestling with. But you pull up and you just skate right over the treetops at the last minute. What an epic recovery. Wow. You saved your own soul. You did it. Now glide to a landing and get repaired and refueled. And don't go out there just thinking you're just going to do anything. It's going to be okay. This is the place of testing. If you pull up at the last second and that's not normal, not even close to normal, normal is just to blow up and disintegrate, you're an absolute legend. You're a legend. Yes, you are. You're a legend. Everybody thought you were dead. You're not. You're still coasting. You came to a landing. You're a hero. That's right. You're a hero of your life. The worse it was, the worse conditions, and you pulled out of that nosedive. You're a hero. Absolutely. Everybody should be listening to you. You're a legend. Everybody was against it. The odds were 99%. You pulled it off. You're a legend. You won the final fight. You're somebody people absolutely want to talk to. You took so many hits and still came up the victor. You're a legend. Don't ever forget that. You earned that title, you deserve it. For God's sake, have a little bit more respect for yourself. Because God does. Just accept it. You've been through war and you've come out no worse for wear. Even if you're missing a couple of digits or limbs or brain cells or what have you. You did it. You're a success. You're victorious. You're a paragon for all of mankind. That even under the worst conditions, you came out ahead. You made it. You're an inspiration. Let yourself know. Let others know you are an inspiration. Thank God. You managed it. Now stay that way. Let others know, for as long as you live, how thankful you are to have survived the war. Well, one admirer wrote in and said, well, okay, you said you wanted a tailored suit, so what should it look like? I said, yeah, Harry Hall. You got to go back to his designs and then possibly an authentic version that's been very well kept and then perhaps even tailored. Well, of course it has to be tailored. And I need at least 3. And then that's just the beginning of it. Then the silks, there's patterns, there's histories, there's so many things that need to be taken into account that were in the past taken into account, but today, no, I'm just supposed to go to some parking lot and find something from the rack, from somewhere. What happened to Harry Hall? Because that's what I'm wearing. Not to sound polemic, but just to make a point. I have gone every time to bat for the brilliance of the United Kingdom, and I have not been paid 1 red shilling. And it's been years now, decades, eternities of the venom and burning hate that everyone had against the brilliant United Kingdom. I weathered it all because it is worth it. Oh, absolutely. Undoubtedly. Just undisputably. If someone has a problem with that concept, I don't want to know that person. If not for anyone else than Shakespeare alone. Do understand that in all instances of misunderstanding that my principles remain true, which is good relationships between good people for a good amount of time. And why not? Isn't that how good is distributed in the world? You've been the most excellent of companions, however misguided you were in the past. Who could have been more misguided than you, or me, or anyone in this realm of tribulation? Who is not disappointed? But who can get over disappointment and therein have, even if it's a momentary victory, and I wish you much more than momentary, but in this moment forever, the present, the victory of all time for infinity itself, because you have chosen the noble thing, despite all of your injuries, all of your persuasions, all of your mistakes. That's what gets you into heaven, friends. It never was different. He at some point breaks free after many comical scenes, like in depth. They have to burn. Every scene has to burn. No lazy films. If that camera is rolling and then you edit it afterwards and it's a waste of time, don't just burn it up. Take 10 years off. Don't ever do that to an audience. That's what these sadistic imbeciles did in my time. Don't do that. I want you to be quite different from that. Be immediate and be brief. Make the point without any extras and with pure authenticity. If you have to look to Japan for that, then do that. They are not the only voice. They are one vision. They are excellent type of glasses. If you put them on, if you want to look through delusion, they help. It doesn't mean it's the ultimate truth. It's just one pair of glasses. Here's something for designers. I want glasses where on the left eye there's a big space that can let you look with yellow lenses or with different rose-colored if you want. That has an extreme amount of adjustability for the light aspects based on the highest achievements that photography has ever done as a science and an art in our time, to take that concept further, to create a completely new aesthetic based on the most tried and true, expert, and priceless insights of all of the masters of the past. An angry young man wrote me recently and said, "Why did you regret or weep at the sight of those destroyed trucks that were carrying explosives to kill us all?" And I thought for a moment, yes, of course, that could be very much easily misunderstood if one was not there. Before the war, when people were not killing each other, there was quite a normal exchange without any politics. And it was a flourishing time, but apparently it annoyed certain aspects of the Khanate, the Mongolian Khanate, and then they wanted to shut that down for some reason and cause a fight between two good people that have no reason to be fighting each other. At least the good part of the good people, not the bad part that's all over the place apparently, that made these decisions that are disastrous. And yet, if you have unskillful people, let them be known, let them be seen. This is the result. Look at all that oil floating around, killing animals. These are the masterminds of that, because they wanted to prove some type of point but what point did they want to prove? What point did they end up proving that they could get a lot of people killed in bad ways? Is that it? Is that the decisive argument in our day? All of those men could have been put to work in successful enterprises. That, just think of the multiplier of joy that is indescribable that could have been released, that wasn't. And yet, look at history. Did ever good leaders come to power, or was it always a battle against the forces of decrepitude, of imbecility, and all of the defilements of mankind? And yet you will not grant that point, that that's where true spirituality, it turns into virtue, which turns into good policy, which turns into good results for at least the civilized peoples of this world that shall ever be a minority amongst fiends, as this is the plane of tribulation. And yet those who succeed, there is no medal that you could receive that would ever convey your value. Think just of this excellent narrative. Europe went to the brink of disaster and then pulled up at the last second and became brilliant again, in every way even better than before. Before the bubonic plague and its equivalent on the cultural levels and everything else. Why not? They have a much different story, that their crap is going to make us better. How about we just reject that and say, well, look, something bad might happen now because bad things have been put into motion, but it's not going to hit us, it's going to hit something else. Because we are fundamentally exceptionally good people, not just in our morals, our tastes, our exceptional insights, our miraculous civilization on every level, our convincing and overwhelming, shocking beauty that we can develop if we're not being attacked or misdirected or manipulated by outside forces. Come on, that's what value is. Let it flourish and protect it. Okay, Russia, part of the Western civilization, you want to have an election? Imagine that is your candidate who's offered all of that to you. Who would you vote for? You think we have more than 51%? I know we do. But who doesn't want that from happening? That's not your friends. You think I'm the bad guy? You have no idea. A chappie wrote in and said, "Dear Sir, what shall we do if our parents are daft and have put us in schools that are dominated by such infamy? What an insane asylum, and yet how many of us have been in insane asylums and yet found some way to thrive? Anyway, you have to ignore the bad things. A lot of parents, unfortunately, are daft imbeciles. I'm afraid if that rumor gets out, it could cause anarchy, but some parents just coincidentally bumped into each other and some types of fluids were exchanged, and then there you are. Perhaps quite unfortunate type of person for political reasons, not for any other reason, because you're a hated minority and minority in the world for inscrutable reasons that charlatans might have to conduct insidious actions against people of tremendous nobility, far beyond any of the unfortunately daft expectations that are not even close to the truth, in fact. Just look at the management of a garden. If you allow various negative things to commence, then it's quite logical that the abundance of the magnificence of the explosion of color and form in autumn, summer, and spring does make the design not just convincing but understandable on every level, including the most basic, which is so convincing because it is so amazingly, spectacularly brilliant and beautiful as the United Kingdom. Will you not lend me your cheap, big, daft, mangy ears for just 1 second to make a point? For a brilliant United Kingdom, absolutely brilliant. You don't have time for that, you're busy with numbers and digits and old ways of doing things and false associations and misleading, anthropologically deceiving theories. Well, that's not where I am, not even the same universe. All of you can become Time Lords. Go back to the good times, wherever they are, such as the 5th century BC. Wow. Enthralling time. Just absolutely enthralling. The levels of complexity are much greater than you possibly can perceive at this time of imbecility. But it's there. It's tremendous, the insights that have been gained beyond this bonfire of outrage that has been let loose on the civilized world. It's a pox, a deliberate one. It's a gain of function one, and yet it need not be tolerated. There's not just a cure for it, there's a way of living that doesn't even include it, and you can start right now, so do it. You have been kept from the truth, you've been kept from the solutions, and you're living in a hell based on that, and yet you can change at any moment, and when you do, how much better for the world and yourself, and your not self for doing so. So how does one make reasonable decisions? Well, if you have the right information, you can make the right decisions. Well, what if you have the right information, but it's about management? How do you change the management? For example, you have a legislative body with a 20% approval rating. Imagine having a cafeteria in a school where 20% of the kids thought the food was okay and 80% were like vomiting, that were getting like atrophied, just like dazing into space and being subjected to that food every day. And then you think of yourself as some type of responsible citizen. Oh, that's okay. It's just the government. It's not a school cafeteria. I guess we can just keep that thing cranking. The people that are cranking that, they're really cranking, aren't they? Cranking for themselves. And then to just have the temerity to be that oblivious about the public they're supposed to be responsible for. When did that happen in history? What were the people involved? If the truth be told, Louis XIV, he had an infinite level of superior style, however delusional he was, that benefited their society and world in some way. The modern operators, not only do they manage things like crap, but they look like crap. They are crap. That's not modernity. That is a regressive barbarity. So why is the school cafeteria not running the way it is? That's the question the public should ask. And then second question, where are they running better cafeterias and what are they doing? And is it just a matter of management practices? It's not about personality. We got personalities there that will not accept better management practices. That's not the management you need, so throw them out. Throw them the hell out. Don't feel any type of pang of conscience. What? Too bad they can't profit and not even do their jobs competently. And if the school cafeteria example is too complicated for you, take it all the way down the line. I want you filmmakers to start just letting the camera roll with scenes like this, where you just have blatantly incompetent people just not being fired for what they do. Like in places where they are fired in a heartbeat if they don't do things right. You know, go into the burger joint, the guy that's putting together the burgers but just forgetting the last part of the bun because he's siphoning off funds. He's saving on bread. That's his like rationale. He does like a wink. Make him look really grotesque too. Give them a lot of that characteristic. Like if you go beyond the proxies, like the people that employ them, get into their faces, like their fat faces and quirky styles, but make them on the burger line. And the customers are complaining like they're looking, and then the people, the cashiers are in on it. This is their job. They get paid like above market to just know the public. Like, this is the new way, buddy, or it maybe give them a bunch of different explanations. And then they have like little meetings in the back. All right, what is the explanation today for this? If they come with that same old problem and look at them like rolling their eyes, like bored, like, oh God, this is the job. Because that's your information, Lord, your people that are feeding you those burgers for the guy in the back that is scrimping on buns for he-self and he friends. And show them like after work with some type of like really super tacky vehicle. You know, like Scarface's Tiger interior Cadillac, you know, something like that. Show them driving real goofy too and bribing cops. I mean, this is just there's definitely a full-length film in this, but you can start out small with just the right scenes, and do be sure to bring the photography to the meeting along with real actors, not these dopes that can't read a line. I meet people, not every day, but they are out there. They're extremely charismatic and put together. And they can read lines, even if they can read them. They have to read them 10 times to get it right. When they do read them and get it right, it looks right. It looks better than right. Just forget about turn on the camera around dolts. You bring some bad actors, and the whole movie should be filled with good actors. Every damn scene counts. Every position counts. No weak spots. That's the other thing. They politicize the arts. In a way, it's understandable. Yeah, I had to get to know this person before they would work with me type thing. But they obviously don't know the right people that are doing films these days. The companies aren't treating people right. They're not writing the scripts right. They politicize the arts, and it shows. It's crap. It's dump. It's a dump. It's a dustbin. It's a bunch of technicians getting through their day, union getting through its day and punching a clock. That's it. Don't look to them for inspiration. Look to them for what not to do. You need to take a crappy job like that. That's the crap you're going to produce. Do it on your own time. Make enough. Take a year off and do it with some people that are willing to do it. Find some type of organization. Be the change you want to see. Because really great movies, you know what? We have too much of a consumerist mindset. Go into the details. Learn about how difficult the production was. How that camera on a rapid scene got smashed against a rock and it was worth like $75,000 or something like that at the time. So they had to completely redo how they thought they were going to shoot it, but they shot it and it turned out to be legendary. Those types of stories are out there for you. Don't think it happens. Werner Herzog, that's a little name for you if you don't know what that's about. So there are artists out there, not all of them live in your contemporary times, but you can pull artists out of the past and make them your contemporaries, the ones that did it right. And sometimes it does take a lifetime to find them, but if you can get it all compact and just study on the good stuff, you can absolutely be as good as them or better. That's how they did it in the old artist, the Italian craftsman tradition. You started off working for them and you figured out how they did it, and if they had a couple little extra time or on different jobs, you were of benefit. You were not demanding and you were open to new ideas and doing things one way, and then of course you can vary once you learn it the right way. But when you don't know nothing, it's best to learn from the best. Mentoring is important. So find someone who's doing something right and then try to mentor. Try to find a mentor. That's what they did, the Italian craftsmen, and the jobs were tedious and tough in the beginning, like mixing paints, although it's not something that an accomplished, skilled master wants to be doing, so it is a job that is available for people that might not have any pay in the beginning, but if they can do it successfully for like in 3 months, then if a big commission comes in, that's the guy that might actually get a paid job and then continue to get paid jobs and continue to develop his own stuff on the side and then possibly grow that. But certainly in the beginning, think of it as prototypes. Don't have too high expectations. Actually have no expectation. It's development. Now, people like Michelangelo, everything, once you reach a certain degree of skill, it legitimizes all of the previous prototypes, no matter how clumsy they may appear to you. So don't discount your early works. They're the most important works. They're the most difficult works. They're the most unrewarding works. Don't give up on the journey. And a lot of people need hyper focus to do certain hyper things, but if you change, that's also okay. You did this, now you do this, but it's not you, so it's just a new thing. Now, people who know you, know you, they might not like that. They might be the person who wants to define you because they think they know something about you, but actually they never did in the first place. There's people who are so dang smart, they think they can just look straight through you and understand everything you want. Understand your motives better than you understood them. And they really try to get convincing, and they might even get agitated and angry at you if you tell them that that's malarkey. Because some of them do use it to manipulate and to control and to influence. And they might do it subconsciously just because they don't want you to move to Florence, for example, because they've got something planned for you, like becoming a bank teller or something like that. Because it would be so much better for you long term if you did something sensible. Okay, that's just one variation. There are infinite numbers of variation. How about the 10 pounds of flax security guard back in the day? What a valuable commission in worldly and spiritual terms. So have a little whimsy with it. And realize, yeah, if you change your perspective on life, if it's not just one death, then this is just one iteration. So do the best with it that you possibly can, but don't over-expect or overestimate your skills or over-invest in desires or self or aversion. Aversion is a blind spot, really. Too many people don't see that. Aversion is horrifying. It's terrible. It's the angel on your shoulder versus the devil on your shoulder. You're dealing with aggravating things because it's so enthralling. Guess what? You're normal to subnormal, but that's not supernormal. Supernormal people cut the ties to aversionary things. Quick. Like, what's this? Keeping it to a minimum. Look at this guy, like the spit just flying out of his face as he makes all these noises with his throat. And then 5 minutes later, that apparition is gone, and you decided to clean things up in the toilet a little bit. And now and then you might have even applied a little bit of moisturizer because it gave you the opportunity to do something caring for yourself, with the appreciation that if that guy had what you had, he would be much better off too. But as a human being in this realm of tribulation, something got the best of him. Could have been a demon. That's the other thing. People are not suspicious enough in this age. People have been taught that they know everything. We know the limits of the universe. We have electron microscopes. We know everything. We don't know half of it, but we think we know everything. Be more superstitious, especially if you're on the wrong path. Anything that will keep you from performing any type of act that could lead to any bad causality. If you need superstition, then open up that cupboard and let everything fall out. Let the black cat wake you up if that's what it takes. A jack-o'-lantern, an owl. What else? Because a lot of people out here, they aren't afraid enough of bad things. No, they're not. They're not. They think it's innocuous. It's not innocuous. See, this is a part of the game. If you can be made to believe something's innocuous, oh, that's just a scarecrow. It's not somebody dressed up like one with a weapon. Well, then you will not protect yourself accordingly. But if you have the binoculars, you just make a double check and lo and behold, it isn't just what it appears to be. It really is something insidious and dangerous. Well, then guess what? You had the right preparation and the right state of mind to maybe re-inspect goofy things and the causality thereof. Maybe you don't need at this point in time, you don't need a scarecrow in that spot, because there ain't no birds landing. Because maybe like everything is dead for miles and miles around, and nobody's growing nothing that a bird could eat. So, but if in your mind you don't see that, you think, well, oh, look at this. Today is the same as yesterday, and I read this book about isms, and we're going into peaceful times where there's going to be a lot of prosperity and freedom, and all of our dreams are going to come true, and blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, they're doing this, and this, that. Might infer something else is in store for you than what you thought, which would be a natural expectation that someone would want the best for you when the management's changed. They want the worst for you. Like, it can happen. Just think of yourself. Your wealthy out-to-lunch parents sent you to a boarding school. And they sent you there on its reputation. And they were there themselves maybe 10 years ago, 3 years ago. But within that time, the management's completely changed, and it's turned into a house of disappointments, of misdirections, of charlatans and mismanagers. The only thing they're accomplishing, though, is their marketing department that keeps everyone in the dark. That could be another movie. Come on, filmmakers. Don't go too far with like horror or something. I'm against that. It's absolutely a little bit too much. Do it in more of a suspenseful manner with smaller things that are less crazy, right? That might just be also metaphysical. It's like something just appeared. There's a lot of variation that can be brought into mediums of storytelling like that to convey a insightful message. Do not let 1 minute of your film be a waste. And you might shoot a lot more than you need. That's okay. Just cut it down and then give yourself some time. Look at it again. Cut it down again. Do that 4 times and then you've got your director's cut. That's it. You're too pressured for money or time. You're not going to make the right decisions, and you're also going to have higher expectations than you can deliver. These things take time. Some go into the stories of production. Some of these films took years and years and years and years to finish. However, that has a lot of downsides. It's really about the cast, keeping them together for the time of shooting, and you have to make the shots work within the environment you're trying to convey. That's also a temporal thing. This shooting location opens up and it might be free. 5 years later, it's impossible because they built, who knows what these days of dementia. Big parking lot nobody needs, or another casino that is decrepit. We're living with no anti-management practices in the form of decision-making and realities. And it is a negative causality from decomposed humanities departments that fed these people into the machinery, and they're the wrecking crew, essentially. So, as terrible as that is, it's terrible for the people stuck in decrepit places. When was that not the case in the world? If you can keep it moving, keep it moving. If you can't, do what you can. But at least it gives people that have been ripped off in every sense of the word at least some closure as far as a potential explanation goes. Because telling them that the sun's shining and rainbows, I don't think that's the right thing to do, especially if you're not getting paid to invert reality like that for them. It's really a question how many of them really appreciate it at the end of the day.